Hey, how you doing, everyone? Lovely to see you all. Dave here with Matt Pritchard. I'm really looking forward to this session. We're going to do a little bit of yoga. We're going to talk about men's health, men's mental health, have a good chin wag. We'll meld in a little bit of breath work in it. We'll do a little bit of movement, and we'll get Matt to slow right down. How does that sound, Matt?
Pardon?
How does that sound to you?
Well, considering the technical problems we've just had, I do really need to slow down, yes.
It's all good, mate. It's all good. We'll get there. People who don't know Matt, you've probably seen him on the Virtual Village Hall Royal Voluntary Service doing his vegan cookery. He was the star of MTV's Dirty Sanchez from 2003 to 2007. I think there was 4 series that they did. The Dirty Vegan Cookery Show on the BBC. Matt's an ultra runner. He's a triathlete. He's an all-round good egg. You've just been to Download Festival doing DJing. Is that right, this weekend?
No, I was doing a live podcast with Matt. So we're doing a pilot, yeah. So that was, it was really good.
Nice. So some really interesting stuff we'll talk about today. And then the idea today is about slowing both of us down, probably. We've got some of our backgrounds are quite similar, a lot of running, a lot of kind of long distance running, and we'll kind of get into all of that. So what I thought we'd do, Matt, at the start, we'll do this lovely breathing exercise. So breath in yoga is called pranayama. And this is alternate nostril breathing. So maybe sit up nice. So I sit on something. If you've got something to sit on, maybe a book, you can sit on something nice. Maybe a cushion, that can feel good. And then the idea of sitting like this, I'm going to move back a little bit so you can see me, is it just raises your hips off the ground a little bit. You know, sitting on the floor. Yeah. People are like, oh, God, I never sit on the floor. We don't generally do that in the West, do we? So putting something underneath your hips, draw a little bit of length into your spine, then relax your shoulders. So now we're proper yogis, right? Already. We don't need to do anything else, mate.
No, Dave, you can see how stretchy I am by the position of my legs.
Well, you know what I do when I sit normally, I'm here, but when I sit on the edge of a block, I can drop my knees down a little bit. So have a little wriggle around, just see how it all feels to you. And then what we'll do is draw a bit of length into your spine, see if you can relax your shoulder blades down your back. So I'll do this by just bringing the palms up. And then if anyone's tuning in now, they'll be like, oh, look at those two. Really pristine and relaxed yogis. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do this alternate nostril breathing. So the left hand will stay on your knee or your thigh, wherever feels good. Palm can be up. You'll bring the right hand up towards your nose. So it's really simple, and I'll talk you through it. You block off the right nostril with your thumb, and then you switch and you block off the left nostril with your ring finger or your little finger. I usually use my ring finger, sometimes my little finger. You can bring these 2 fingers together if you want. So this is all you're doing. You just move in side to side. So right nostril, thumb, left nostril, maybe your little finger or your ring finger. All right. And I'm going to talk you through this. This is all about balancing energy and bringing everything right down. So sit nice and tall. You can close your eyes or maybe you just soften your gaze. And then from here, just block off your right nostril with your thumb, really gently as you do it. Then take a really gentle inhale through your left nostril. And then block off your left nostril with your ring finger or little finger, and then just exhale through your right. Staying really relaxed through your jaw, so don't tense up there. Then inhale through your right. And then close off your right with your thumb. Exhale through your left. And just move like this together just for a few rounds. Inhaling through your left. And then close off your left. Switch, exhale through your right. Inhale right. Close off right, exhale left. Do 2 more complete rounds. So inhaling through your left. Close off left, switch, exhale through your right. Inhale through your right. Close it off, switch, exhale through your left. And then final round, inhaling through your left. Close off left, exhale through your right. Final time, inhaling through your right. Close it off, full exhale through your left. And then you can bring your right hand down, just let your breath come back to a normal rhythm. See if you can breathe in and out through your nose. And if it feels safe, just keep your eyes closed and then just check in with your experience, see how you feel. Hopefully feeling a little calmer if you felt, you know, a little bit agitated, a bit busy, a bit stressed. And then you can come with your eyes open, mate. Give your fingers a little wriggle out. How do you feel?
Better than what I did 5 minutes ago.
It's good, mate. So that's a really breath that you can come to.
Technology is one of the things that fry my mind. So
yeah.
Apologies to everyone listening in as well that we were so late. That was because I'm just hopeless.
It's an interesting point, isn't it? I was listening to a podcast the other day and talking about your mind. This guy was talking about, I've forgotten who he was, but he was on Rangan Chatterjee's podcast, the Feel Better, Live More podcast, which is really great, really good content.
Yeah.
And he was saying, when you get stressed, we feel it physically. You know, we feel it kind of anxiety, you know, probably in the chest, and we feel it as a physical manifestation. But the brain cognitively gets really overloaded. And he says, what we try and do is we get overloaded here, and then we think, I know how to sort this out. I'm going to think my way through it, right? And you can't do that, can you? Because the brain's already overloaded. So using a little bit of breath work, for example, just sitting there and just breathing and maybe opening up the lungs and using oxygen, that's the fastest way to kind of get us out of stressful situations. I'm the same with you, mate, with technology. Once my brain goes down there, I'm lost and I'm just like, I've got no idea what I'm doing. You know?
Yeah, because I get into I mean, I way overthink everything, and I kind of trying to switch that off. Is one of the hardest things for me. So learning to try and slow it down a little bit helps a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your story for people who don't know you, mate? Just a bit of context.
I mean, guess for those, I mean, most of my followers know my backstory, but for those who are joining in that don't, I mean, I'm a skateboarder. I left school to learn how to be a chef. For 2 years, and I had a little bit of a really bad experience when I left to go into the big bad world to find a job, and that sort of put me off the cooking thing. And then I ended up cleaning windows, funnily enough, for my friend, and which worked quite well really because I was so into my skateboarding that I had much more time to skate. So I was window cleaner, skateboarder. Then I worked in a factory for 3 years making heating elements for industry, and then I turned professional skateboarding, and I just did that full time. And then I became a team manager for Globe Skate Shoes for a distribution called Double Overhead in Porthcawl. And then we did the video Pritchard versus Dayton.
Yeah.
It was me, Dane, Dikey, and quite a few others. And that is what MTV saw. And then that's when I was actually working for Globe Shoes at the time. I got a call off MTV for a talent scout saying come in for a meeting, and then Sanchez was born. And then from there, pretty much for 15 years, it was just life was mayhem. It was a good laugh, but it caught up with me a little bit. I started my fitness journey 2011. I did a half marathon when I was 15, and then I wondered if I could still do it again after years of debauchery, and I did, enjoyed it, signed up for an Ironman, and that was me then. I was just addicted to fitness really, and just so I did one Ironman, I did double Ironman, triple Ironman, and then I did 30 half Ironmans in 30 days, and then I did the Deca, which is 10 full Ironman in 10 days, and rode across the Atlantic Ocean. I've done countless marathons, ultra marathons, so that's sort of been my focus, and that's what my focus is now.
So it's pretty full on, energetic, right?
Energetic, yeah, and sort of trying to look after myself. And literally my journey for the last 8 months has been I had a little bit of a breakdown 8 months ago, and ever since I've been on this. I've had a therapist called Chip Summers, and I've been working with him once a week, and he's been absolutely great. And for the last 8 months I've been clean, and it's tough, but a good journey.
And it's a journey, right? And that's what it's all about.
I mean, being sober and clean, it's not a straight line, is it? So, but yeah, it's all good. I'm in a good place at the moment.
It's fascinating, mate. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. I think we've got similar journeys where probably not when I was younger. I was like, I was in the corporate world. I worked in IT sales. I've been running since 1998. And I got into running because I was overweight and I was drinking too much. And, you know, I was in my mid-20s and we're the same age. We're both 50, aren't we? And I kind of felt really unfulfilled at that point in my life. It's like I was missing something. So I think running kind of saved my life. I really do. I think running was the first thing, but there was a big gap between running and then sort of what came next. I got busy, earned quite a good amount of money. You know, had all the trappings of what you think is what is going to make you happy. Nice house, nice car, nice suit, nice wife, all of this going on. But I just felt sort of empty inside, you know. It was really tough for me. And then in 2011, me and my wife decided to kind of walk a trail called the Te Aroa, which is top to bottom of New Zealand. And we just jacked everything in. My wife worked for Childline. I was still working in IT sales, and we went away. And I think I've seen a lot of stuff that you do in nature, and what nature did, it ultimately really changed us as humans. It slowed us right down. You know, that idea of journeying and just going from one place to another, and the only thing you got to worry about is get up in the morning, feed yourself, walk, don't get lost, and go to sleep. The simplicity of that is beautiful, and it's like pure rhythm of life, isn't it?
No, completely. I mean, life is pretty easy, but I think we've got a tendency to make it really, really hard for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's like you just said, wake up in the morning, keep fit, do something, running or whatever it may be, eat, and do what you need to do, and then repeat.
It's like nourishment for the soul, right? Isn't it? And I think sometimes with men, is like we get confused because we think, well, I didn't live my life like that in the past. You know, I'm a hard drinker. You know, I've done drugs. I've done this. I've done that. It's boring. I don't want to do that. It's soft. I want to go down the pub with my mates and all of those things. You know, in terms of going down the pub, you can still do all those sort of things. Obviously, it's not like you change your life overnight. But I think it's a really exciting journey to be on as well. For me, I feel like, you know, just to finish off where I went with that is I started having therapy as well in 2016. I'm a Leicester City fan, and Leicester City won the Premier League, and I thought that was going to solve all my problems in life. Unfortunately, in football, you know, it will never do that for you. But my wife was training to become a therapist, so she was having a lot of her own personal therapy because she had to, because she was training, and that brought up a lot of stuff for her, that brought up a lot of stuff for me, which made me delve into some of my childhood trauma and realize stuff that I'd kept buried for a very long time. So my therapy opened me up to a point where even after a short period of time, it sounds like you're on this journey as well, where I thought I'm getting curious and braver about doing other stuff. And I've been running for years and my body was getting tight. And I was thinking, I'm not going to be able to keep this up for much longer. And what I did was my wife just said to me, do you want to come to a yoga class? And I'd said no so many times because not that I was anti-yoga, it just didn't really interest me. And then suddenly I'm like, all right, I'll come along and I'll do some yoga. And number one, it was incredibly painful. But number two, we did that breathing that we've just done there at the end of the class. And it blew me away because it was the first time I connected this and this together, my heart and my brain, you know, this kind of like organism that we kind of separate these things off, don't we? And it was incredible for me. And then after that, you know, my journey just kind of carried on. And then about 2 years later, I stopped drinking alcohol. I did some teacher training with a guy called Tommy Rosen. He's a great guy, yoga teacher, recovery expert, runs an organization called Recovery 2.0. And I went over to India to do teacher training with him. And it was just really, life-changing for me. And I think about not drinking now as like freedom. I'm nearly 6 years sober.
So cool.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And it's one of those, isn't it, where I sometimes see that people have that attitude again where, and I don't blame people for this because drinking's so ingrained in our culture, isn't it? But then people sort of think that, oh, are you an alcoholic then? Or, you know, and identify yourself as an alcoholic. That's absolutely fine. But for me, it's not relevant anymore. I don't think I was anyway. I was a problem drinker, and it's just labels, right? I think about not drinking now. It's like it gives me the freedom to do so much more stuff now. Been out this morning, don't have a hangover. I don't have that critical voice. I still have it, right? But it's not as dominant as it used to be. Yeah.
I mean, you know, when I go to, I mean, it's not, yeah, it's the same with me. It's not, I sort of got rid of that thing from the back of my head. The only time it does really come knocking is when you go on holidays and stuff, or you go to like a festival this weekend, and I was backstage, and for the last, well, I wouldn't to say 30 years, but I'd say for the last just over 20 years, backstage for me has been alcohol, drugs, gearing myself up, ready to go on stage, and what I used to do. So when I was backstage before going on stage with Matt, it was this thing in my head that, and it was taking me back to all those times I was doing it. But this time, I just had a 00 Guinness, and that sort of it worked for me. But I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and you feel it again, don't you? Because ultimately, all of our addictions, whatever we identify as them are, they're all coping mechanisms, right? It's all about feeling something that we don't want to feel, and then we want to put it on the back burner. And we've got some ingenious coping mechanisms, whether it be drink or whether it be technology or whether it be gambling. There's so many stuff there, and I think they're probably not unique to men, obviously not, but probably men will go a little bit more towards the gambling side of stuff, and drinking's very much in our culture, and work as well. Work is like the ultimate addiction, isn't it? That people applaud and go,
I mean, because I've been talking to my therapist about addiction as well, but I changed my addiction. I changed it from what I used to, but to the fitness. So I'm sort of addicted. So, but to me, the fitness thing is far more of a healthy addiction, although yes, sometimes it's endurance training is quite hard on your body and mind and stuff. But for me, that I'd much rather do that than what I was doing before.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
You swap one for another. And I've got an addictive personality. I'm an addict, and I just when I like something, I'm not going to tickle it. I'm going to go in.
I like that, mate. You're like full on in there. I think it's a really good point. My yoga teacher Tommy Rosen said exactly the same thing, where he said if you see all these things as addictions, he says like addiction, it's like you just swap it for a good one, and that sounds like what you've done. And I've heard about ultra running. I know this from myself, that people call it the acceptable form of self-harm, it's like, but again, it's on that spectrum, right, of what are we doing here,
I mean, it's like my fiance said, tattoos. I think that's a form of self. I mean, not just ultra running, like multi-day endurance events. It's another thing called some kind of self-harm. But I find that when I'm, I go in when the pain kicks in when I'm doing those events, I sort of go in on myself, and I start dealing with everything. I don't want to speak to anyone. I'm going in to me, and I'm on my own with my own thoughts. And like we spoke about the other day, my meditation, I can't meditate like most people. My form of meditation is when I get it when I'm running. And as soon as I'm warmed up, my breath and everything is all working. I'm warm and everything's, and then my music is, even with music on, I sort of zone out. And sometimes I could run miles and not even think about anything, and then I sort of snap out of it. I go, "Oh, geez, where have I been?" And then I look at my Garmin, and I've done 3 or 4 miles. So I was totally switched off meditating.
It's amazing, and like I think they call it soft fascination. When you're out in nature as well, there's something about moving. I know for me, if I'm running along, I live in Leicester City Centre, and if I'm running along the pavements, I'm not in the zone as much as when I'm running through forest trails or running by the canal or across green grass or something. And that's when I can sort of tap into that, where probably like you, with that soft fascination, it feels like a little bit more of a meditation.
But for me, I think that's why I do these 4 a.m. things. I get up at 4 a.m. The world's a peaceful place. By the time I leave my house, it's about 4:30, and I start running. There's no cars really. There's nobody, and there's nothing to distract you from switching off and enjoying the sun rising in the distance and the ducks, the swan. I know this sounds a bit hippie, but it's bliss. It's great. And then I come back and I'm buzzing because my endorphins are going, my dopamine and everything, and have a nice breakfast. So it's a great start to the day.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's funny what you just said there about it sounds a bit hippie, and that sort of brings us on to yoga a little bit, because I think a lot of people think I'm not doing that stuff. Do you know what I mean? I'm not doing that yoga stuff because I need yoga pants, I need to burn incense, and I'm not flexible. I'm not a woman. I'm not this. I'm not that. We give ourselves all these ideas why we don't want to do yoga. So what can I ask you? What your kind of perceptions of yoga are at this point?
I'm game for it, man.
Yeah,
I'm older. I'd like to think I'm wiser.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people most probably wouldn't agree, but I'm older, wiser, and I know that things like yoga and breath work and all this kind of stuff is good. It's good for everyone at all ages. But for me now, with my position in life at the moment, this is perfect, and it's the kind of thing I need to do, because I do. From years of skateboarding, from years of ultra endurance, my body is in a right mess. And as you can see, I can't, stiff as a board. So I really need to do more yoga. And I'm guessing the more flexible you are, the less injuries you're going to get as well.
I think so. But we get really obsessed about it being about flexibility. Another thing I was listening to last week is said someone was talking about one of the biggest risk factors of early death. Well, this sounds a bit depressing, and not early death, but death in old age actually, is the risk of falling over, because of the associated risks on that. So you break a leg, for example, like my mum had Parkinson's disease. She broke her hip and she died 9 months later from the complications of it.
It's the hips, isn't it? A lot of people older, they do the hips and then they die.
Absolutely, because they lose their balance. So we think about yoga as we get obsessed because we see it on social media or we're seeing it on TV, and it always makes me laugh when you see it on TV in a program and it's always loads of women and they're always look really serene and beautiful. Yoga's not like that. We run a not-for-profit in Leicester here called the Space to Breathe Collective, and like half of our members are men, and it's not just young men, it's mainly men of our age and a little bit older. So that's really, it's really lovely to see that. And we think about yoga as this complete practice of like flexibility, balance, kind of the way that we move our body in space. It doesn't have to be even that physical. Do you know what I mean? It's about what we're trying to do today is about slowing down and just paying attention. And we call it a yoga practice. And so that's all we're doing, right? We get onto our mat. There's 2 Sanskrit words. And one of them's abhyasa, and it just means regular, steady practice. Abhyasa, so just keep getting on your mat. You do that with your running, right? Or you do it when, you're swimming or whatever you do. You're very regular. You're very disciplined. So abhyasa is about getting on your mat. The other one is called vairagya, which just means release the outcome, non-attachment. So we're not trying to get anywhere, which is countercultural, right? Because, as a runner, you're going, run 100 miles, or I'm going to do 30 half marathons or 30 half triathlons in 30 days. So it's very goal orientated. But what I find when we do that, it's amazing achievement. But what happens when you've done it? How do you feel after you've done those long events?
And I've always, it's not, when I first started doing this kind of stuff, I didn't realize what comes next after doing these events, because I go to a dark place, and I realized the pattern, and I was like, Christ, because the journey to get, like, say, you've got the challenge in the distance. So the journey, you're training most days to get to do this challenge. You've done this, multi-day endurance or whatever it may be, and it's done. And then you need to heal because your body's ruined. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, your life sort of, everything's void. There's nothing there to work towards. And you've had all these endorphins on a daily, and then you get all these like dopamine, endorphins, everything whilst you're doing the challenge. Amazing. And then you cross the finish line, and then it's done. And then and quite a few times I've gone to a really dark place. But then now that I'm aware of it, and I've been there a few times, I know that I need to, as soon as my body's healed a little bit, I need to, don't stop, keep going, or train down at least, or start looking at the next, start scouting the internet for the next challenge. Yeah, so and that's something to focus on for the next thing then.
Yeah, and there's so many out there as well, isn't there? Now it's like someone's got this new kind of wacky thing. I did an amazing race called the Cape Wrath Ultra in about 7 or 8 years ago, which is a multi-day race from Fort William up to Cape Wrath. Really well organized. And I was the same. After I'd done that, I felt like a superhero because I never thought I'd be able to do it. And I'm running not huge distances, but yeah, pretty big. You know, some days were 35, 40 miles, some days were a bit less than that. And I just thought my body would break down ultimately, but it didn't. But then after that, I had this real low where I'm like, what do I do now? I've been building up to that for such a long time. And I think with my yoga practice, what that has done is it's allowed me to kind of, I think, number one, be less impulsive about what I have to do. You know, the next challenge, the next challenge, the next challenge. And it does slow me down. Even though my yoga practice can be quite physical, it keeps bringing me back to this kind of, I know this sounds, again, a bit hippie probably, but it brings me back to me of like who I am. And what it does every time, that idea that we are a true reflection of ourselves on and off the mat. So we can't bring a different version once we get onto our mat. You know, as you say, you get on your mat and you try and meditate and your brain's on fire and you're like, I can't do this. But always coming back to think, well, it's a practice. So I'm just practicing and my brain might be on fire today, but you know what? At least I paid attention to it. At least I noticed it. I wasn't distracting myself by going to the pub and having 8 pints of Stella or something, you know? So that's always that practice that's kind of going on there. And I think we can learn a lot from that because ultimately we're both 50 years old and our bodies are going to break down, right? They ain't going to do what they like. I feel really lucky now. I feel really blessed that I can still do a lot. And I thought when I was 20 years old, me being 50, I'd be like, oh, I'm a knackered old man. But I don't feel like that. But
yeah,
in 20 years, I ain't going to be able to do the stuff that I do now. There's a really lovely yoga teacher called Jeff O'Meara who set up the collective with us. He's an American guy, really inspirational, teaches yoga in prisons in the UK and taught yoga in prisons in the US a lot. And he always says to me, ultimately, this thing is going to degrade and break down. All right. You ain't going to be able to use this. So I think that's why if we can find a yoga practice that works for us and adapt it over the years, that can become part of our coping mechanism, I guess, in a good way. It's swapping a bad habit for a good habit again, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel terribly lucky at this age that I can still do what I'm doing because what I've put my body through over the years. I certainly didn't think at 50 I'd be still running. I'd be running ultra marathons or, you know, Ironmans and all that kind of stuff. So, even though I'm 50, I'm grateful I can still move, but I know that one day it ain't gonna happen. But I always see these like 70-year-olds or 80-year-olds crossing the line of an Ironman or a massive run, and I always go, that's going to be me when I'm 75. That's what I'm doing, and hopefully, touch wood, it will.
Absolutely. It doesn't mean that we ain't going to be able to do that when we're older, and you know, as long as we look after ourselves physically and mentally, I think we can go there. And I think another thing that changed for me was I sort of changed my motivation. So I think when we spoke last week, I've done the same thing this morning. I've been out for a run. All right, yeah, I've got my Garmin on and I'm tracking my time and it's on my Strava and everything. But I'd go out and I'd be like pushing myself so hard just so people could see what my crap Strava times were. Really average running, do you know what I mean? But something in me which makes me think, oh, I can't relax with this on. And over the last few years, I've done it where I'm like, I'm trying to just run for the joy of running. That
I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
I've done it quite a bit recently. I just don't put this on. I just go and go with the feel of the actual run and just enjoy it.
And does it feel better sometimes?
Well, I do like a stat.
Well, you're a man, right? We all like stats.
Yeah, you know, I don't really give a plop about anybody else. It's just because on Strava you can beat your own times and stuff, and that's what.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's what I want. Obviously, with you. I don't have anyone on my Strava now. I just keep it all to myself. But before, you know, you'd have a laugh with your mates and try and beat them at the fastest thing or whatever.
Yeah. I get that. And I am the local legend from my flat just round the corner, you know. So it's about 200 meters, but I run that hard.
See, it was when I had, because I just deleted my Strava, started again. But when I didn't, before I deleted it, I had for the local there's a climb, and there was a guy who did it this many times. I went in 3 months, and I went, well, right, I'll see, I'll show you. Yeah. I just went up and down this road, this hill, climbing this hill on my bike until it was absolutely burnt. It's just,
or
it's good because I got some good training out there.
Yeah, 60 segments in one day, something like that.
Yeah, ridiculous. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good to hear, mate. Right, should we do? Well, we've got a couple of questions. Let me just read these questions out, mate, and then we'll do a little bit of moving. So someone's asked this. They said, "Hi, Dave. I've started my fitness journey. I train well. I eat clean, but I cannot shake this urge to have a drink each night. Any tips I can employ that you've learned?" What do you reckon to that, mate?
Well, that's the thing that I've over the last 8 months I've been working on, because exactly that. It'd come to like 4 o'clock, and it'd be like, "Well, it's time to go to the shop, get your beers, your bottle of wine, drink." And definitely once you finish a long run or something, it's like the treat.
Yeah, it's our reward system, right?
It's the reward system, yeah. So for me, it's not easy, but I just learned to switch it off, and I don't really get that urge anymore.
It's good, and it does change, doesn't it? I think, like they say, don't they, like 40 days to change a habit. It doesn't mean you completely change it, but the first 40 days are the critical part. And I know for me, when I first stopped drinking, even though it was an easier decision for me to stop drinking because of the work that I'd done, it was still hard. And I practiced yoga every morning. It was like a routine, not only like 10, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. I did the same class for 40 days, and it really got me through those days. My dad was really ill at the time, and I was 100 days sober when it was his funeral, so there was a lot of stuff going on in my life at that point, but I kind of stayed by having like a really healthy routine. So that's the advice I would give, that, and it changes over time, right? And you mentioned non-alcoholic Guinness or non-alcoholic drinks in general. That works for me, and I have it. It doesn't trigger me into wanting alcohol, but I'll have a non-alcoholic beer. And do you know what? I'll have 1 or 2 and not 10. I don't know.
Yeah, and it makes you feel like you're not missing out when you're being part of the boys or whatever you mean.
Yeah.
But the best thing about it is that when you wake up in the morning, you've got to spring it.
And that's the freedom part, isn't it? Of like,
you can go for a run and go, "Oh man, I'm gonna bother you. I feel I've got a bit of hangover. I'll do it tomorrow." Yeah. But that those rubbish excuses you used to tell yourself when you used to have like a little hangover, and you miss that one. And throughout the year, those 1 day goes to 2 days, 3 days, and after over the space of a year, you could have missed a whole month of running or cycling or whatever it may be that you're doing because of hangover.
Yeah, that idea of like, it's a very yogic philosophy of like living day by day, but also, that's a very 12-step recovery philosophy, isn't it? Of like just 1 day at a time, and pay attention to those. So if you do get an urge and you want to have a drink, that's okay. And you know what? They always say relapse is part of recovery, don't they? So it's all right. You're just paying attention to your thoughts. But I would say that routine's really important. I would say that healthy routines are really important, and not to be too hard on yourself. I mean, the guy who's asked this question, or woman, I don't know if it's guy or woman, you can always direct messages and you can ask some more information about that. It's a really great question.
And that thought doesn't last long.
It doesn't last long.
I need to smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
In fact, only a few seconds, that thought's gone.
Yeah.
So just leave it and it'll go. And then it may come back again, but then just forget about it.
I would say consciously breathe. I'm a yogi, mate.
It's easier,
brother.
It's easier said than done, both of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we've done it, but like I said, it ain't easy. You just got to put the work in and work towards it, and it will come.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got another one here. It says, "I'm a young man. My anxiety stops me from getting out to try a yoga class. Any tips on how I can build my confidence to do this?" I think that's a really amazing question, especially for men. Incredible question, because that idea of comparing ourselves to other people, going into a yoga space and going, these people are not going to be like me, right? And I think that puts men off all the time. What I love, what we've created here in Leicester, is that that half of our members are men, and that people feel accepted. We've got 4 teachers, I think, which are men. And so it becomes more and more socially acceptable. That idea that you need to look like, the bendy person next to you, man or woman, you don't need to. You need to just do what you do, trying to get away from it being goal orientated. And I always think about yoga as being a really compassionate practice. So curiosity, how does my body move? Non-judgment, I don't care how it moves, it's going to improve or it's going to change, and kind of just letting go all of that compassion. So I want compassion. I want to be kind to myself. So I would say just get into a class. There's this amazing idea of collective effervescence, it's called. And it's when you pick up on the energy of lots of people in a room around you. And I think you get that as well. Like you've told me that you go running with your friends, and I've seen lots of your stuff on social media where you seem to be really well connected with a group of good people around you, and you support each other through that. And I think that's when you go to a yoga class, same thing.
Yeah, I think from somebody who's suffered with really, really crippling anxiety, it's much better now, but I still get it. But I have been there for whoever it is who's left that question. But it's the same with when you going into the gym for the first time. There's all these things, you know, if you've got crippling anxiety, trying to go into the gym for the first time when everyone's there, that's hard work. But luckily these days, there's 24-hour gyms. If you go early, you get to know the gym, get yourself, work your way around the gym a little bit more so you know what you're doing, and then go in busier times because you know where things are, you know how to work things. And, you know, and don't forget, I'm guessing yoga, people are far more welcoming and helpful in yoga classes. In gyms, yes, you do get the alpha male and makes you feel uneasy and stuff. But I guess yoga, they'll welcome you with open arms. Gyms can have a few, I'm not going to swear, but go early, because most people won't get up early to go. These alpha males don't get up to go to the gym, and just get used to the surroundings and everything that you're using, and then just go from there, mate.
I think that's a really, really, really good tip as well. And I think you're right. You know, I always kind of think about when someone arrives in one of our yoga classes, I always kind of think it is, and you know, it might sound a bit overblown this, but I see it as this act of courage. Because I don't think anyone just walks into a yoga class. I think there's always a lot of things. There's a thought in your mind where you might be thinking, I'm drinking too much, I feel low, I feel depressed. It might not be any of that. It might be, I just want to get flexible. But it's never an easy decision to go, I'll just go to that local yoga class. There's a lot of thought, and there's a lot of kind of like things that have gone through you to actually get into the space. And then I always say to people, they sometimes turn up and they're super anxious, and you can see they're nervous. And I always say to them, you're here now. You don't need to worry about anything else. Seriously, you do not need to worry about how your body moves. Just be curious, be compassionate, and come back and keep practicing, because you're going to be supported by people. So that's my advice there as well. And like anything, you know, if someone's curious about going for a run, just go out, give it a go. You know, someone's curious about jumping into cold water. Maybe there's a little bit more consideration about that, because you've got to do that really safely. If someone's like wants to go out and camp in the woods, it's all opportunities, right? We should just do these things, but kind of like, you know, with that compassion. And
yeah, I mean, there's running clubs. There's so many running clubs out there these days. But if you're super anxious, I know these kind of running clubs, they'll welcome you with open arms. But because your anxiety will completely tell your brain differently, and it's a really hard thing to, you know, it's a big leap to be able to just go the turner, because everyone's there at the meeting place, they're all chatting, you're the stranger, your anxiety's kicking off, and it's one of those things that if you really, really want to sort it out and you really want to do it, you'll put yourself in that sticky situation and give it a few weeks. Next thing you know, you've got a load of new mates.
And yeah, absolutely. And like something like Parkrun, which is, you know, Parkrun is brilliant. It's incredible, isn't it? And what I love, I think it was the Parkrun director, the guy said it's a mass participation community that masquerades as a running event. He said it's about bringing people together, and it's about connection, especially post-pandemic, where people have been, you know, separated, and everyone's we still see a lot of people who've really found social anxiety to get out and to do things really difficult. So things like Parkrun are amazing, such really good things to do.
And you're guaranteed that if you are very anxious and you manage to get yourself in these situations with a running group, as soon as you start running and your endorphins start kicking in and your dopamine's kicking in, before you know it, you're going to be chatting away. And then by the time you finish running, your head, completely different place. You're buzzing, you're smiling. You're like, "Oh, I'm glad I did that. I can't wait to do it again." Guaranteed.
Yeah, and you just keep going back, and that's kind of like one of those joys, isn't it, that you get through movement. I think that's a really good point. I love that.
You get Dave, and you get that, but not even just by doing it with groups. You get it by doing it just on your own as well.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter. if you're doing half a mile or you're doing 10 miles, you know, it's by the time the hardest part is getting off the sofa, put your trainers on, and as soon as you go out, by the time you get back, your headspace is in a completely different place. And I've always said that.
You never feel worse, do you? Never feel worse. And I don't think there's kind of been, I don't know, maybe like 2% of my runs I'm itching to get out the door. This morning, I'll have another coffee. I'll just have I'll find something else to do. And then you go out and you come back and you always know, guaranteed, that I'm always going to feel better. I'm always going to feel better for it. Yeah.
And it's the same with the alarm clock at 4 a.m. Like sometimes I just can't be asked. But I know that I'll feel far worse that the snooze on and I just went to sleep and I just sacked it off than what I would if I actually got out of bed, put my trainers on, went for a run.
Absolutely.
So just do it, man.
Yeah, just do it in terms of let all of the kind of preconceptions go and the performance. It doesn't matter. Just go out and move. It's about moving the body, right? We're moving the body, we're energizing ourselves. That's it. The joy of movement. It doesn't matter what the movement is. It's just, and it's the same with yoga. It's just moving. Who cares what it looks like? Who cares if you're inflexible? Who cares if you're the strongest man in the world? It doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters. It's not a competition, is it? None of this stuff is a competition.
I mean, waking up and just, if you can't be asked going out, waking up and doing press-ups.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something as simple as that. And again, the good thing about running is it's so simple. All you need is trainers.
Yeah.
You need your front door. And all you have to do is trainers on, open your front door. There's your playground right there in front of you.
Absolutely. And the same with yoga. You probably need a yoga mat and you can buy one for 10 quid and off you go, roll it out. We always say with people, there it is, you see. It's all good. And I say to people, yoga practices, roll your mat out the night before you go to bed, when you go to bed, and then in the morning it's there. Even if you just lie on it for 2 minutes, you've done your yoga practice because, you know, you're changing the pattern of your behavior. Yeah, it's amazing. Got one more question. Then we'll move a little bit, and then we've got one more to do. So this one says, in terms of non-drinking in your training, did it make a difference to your performance? I'll give the yoga a go. I'm grateful for this interview. Oh, thanks for that comment. It's lovely. How do you find that it makes a difference to your performance?
Oh, look, alcohol is just, it's the worst thing ever in so many ways. And when it comes to running, fitness and all that kind of stuff, get out your life, man. As soon as I make months down now, and oh man, I feel great. Like we were talking earlier, I wake up in the morning, I don't feel groggy anymore. Like just in the nighttime, I go to bed, and I'm not drunk. Yeah. And then I do have sleeping problems every now and again because I can't switch this off. Yeah. But it's far better than what it was when I was drinking. So yeah. For that answer to that question, sack it off, man. It's just, I mean, I guess in the odd pint here and there, it's fine, but yeah, for me, I can't.
You are, doesn't it? With that, some people say to me, they say, "Can you not just have a pint?" And now, but I don't need a pint. I'm really lucky now, and it's not luck. It's because I've done a lot of work, and you know, I'm a long way down that path.
Who's urban as a pint anyway?
Yeah, I know. I'll have 8 pints.
I
never used to have one.
3 days later, I'm still awake.
But, you know, I'll have a pint of non-alcoholic beer, as I said earlier. That's absolutely fine, and I think it works. You know, you said that works for you. I was out in Greece last year by the beach, big bottle of non-alcoholic beer, ice cold glass, glug that down. And do you know what? I said to my wife, because she gave up drinking exactly the same day as me, so we were on this journey together, which is amazing. So we got that. Really good. And I said, that works for me. And it's like, and you know, something as simple as that, but it takes a bit of time to get there, right?
Because my first holiday to Spain wasn't that long ago, actually, with my fiancée. And she, because she's been hugely supportive, because she doesn't not drink, but she won't drink in front of me to help me. So with me not drinking, she doesn't drink either. So she feels great as well. So then we went to Spain, and it's just like you said, crack open a non-alcoholic Heineken it was, and I found that if you put a fresh lemon in the top, like I used to do Corona, it makes it even better.
Check it out. Do you know what I've been drinking this summer? And I said I've got so lame. I'm like drinking non-alcoholic shandies, mate. So the same thing.
Is it a thing? Oh, right.
And then half a can of like lime and lemonade. You get that little zing to it. And I'm sitting there with me. Oh, mate, does the job for me. Get the old Barbie out. Have some nice vegan food.
I'm going to have to try that one.
Absolutely, mate. Right. Should we do a bit of yoga?
Yeah.
We've been doing yoga. Yoga's about talking as well, isn't it? So we're on 45 minutes. They've said we can go to an hour. So let's do like 10 minutes and then we'll wrap it up. And then, do you know what? I think we should do this sort of stuff again, mate. So come to stand. Hopefully you'll be able to see me all right. I can't stand up, mate. I've been sat down too long.
God, you sat down for so long.
Oh, your bum. Oh. All right. So come onto your mat. Hopefully you can see me all right here. And then you come and stand right at the top of your mat. Well, pretty much near the top. You don't have to be right at the top. Have your feet about hip width apart. And then have a look at your feet and line your feet up with the long edges of your mat. Sounds weird, doesn't it? Just so you're like your feet are right below your knees are below your hips. And then think about lining your shoulders on top of your hips. So you stood here, you bring your palms forward. Beautiful, mate. Looking good. And then maybe close your eyes, just really gently. And then just notice how your body feels. This is called Tadasana. It's mountain pose. So anyone joining us, this may be the first time you've stood and you might be thinking, we're just standing, Dave. What's going on? But, you know, this is a foundational posture that we come back to time and time again. Feel the four corners of your feet just press down into the earth. And then do this. Bring your left hand onto your heart and then bring your right hand onto your stomach. So when your hand's at your heart center, stuff that I've been talking about a lot today is about compassion. So really feel that connection. And it might feel a little bit hippie, but that's all right. We're just all learning this stuff, right? There's nothing wrong with like softness in our feelings. So really like connect to your heart. And then in your right hand, you'll just feel your belly rise and fall. And just appreciate yourself. You know, notice this time that you've taken for yourself to take time out of your busy day and just to listen to us guys chatting stuff and doing a little bit of yoga. And then from here, release the hands down so they're back down by your palms, so it's by your hips. And then we're going to do a little bit of sun salutations. So this is a flow of movements where you attach the breath to it. And this is the sort of thing you could do in the morning for 10 minutes and you don't have to do anything else. So work with me on this one, Matt. Bring your hands to the heart center. Press your thumbs into your sternum. All right, feel that engagement through your shoulders. Then on your next inhale, sweep your arms up into the air. So just sweep them up. If you feel tight in the shoulders, it's all good, mate. You can have your palms about shoulder width apart, or you can bring your palms together if that feels all right. Bending the elbows is fine, but try and relax your shoulder blades down the back. All right, here we go. On your next exhale, hinge at the hip and fold all the way down. Keep a really big bend in your knees. Like bend your knees, bend them. And then bring your fingertips down onto the floor. Now, if you can't get your fingertips on the floor, see what I do. I bend my knees and then I let the head be really loose. And then I'm just breathing gently here. Rock the weight into your toes and then have a little intuitive move around. So you can kind of like sway the fingers side to side. You can move through your hips. You can bring the weight forward, back, side to side. Just kind of free flow it a little bit. Nice and gentle movements. Keep breathing though. Breathe deeply. And just notice how this feels. This is more about lower spine than it is your hamstrings. So really feel that space down into your lumbar spine. So as a runner, you'll feel that. And you'll probably feel it in your hamstrings as well. If you want to get into your hamstrings, just rock your weight into your toes just a little bit.
Oh, yeah, feel that.
Feel that bite at the top of your hamstrings as you kind of come forward a little bit. Nice. All right. From here, flatten your palms down onto your mat, bend deeper into the knees. See if you can step your right foot back and then your left foot back. So your feet are again about hip width apart. Then inhale and just lengthen into plank. All right, so you bring
into a dog.
No, not down dog, into plank. If you have a quick look at me, and your hips are nice and level.
Oh, yeah.
So we're there. All right. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Really spread out through your fingers. Yeah. Really engage through your arms. Keep breathing. Might feel really tough. These are the sort of poses that feel tough at the start, and then they get so much easier over time. From here, put your knees down onto your mat, so take a little bit of the strain out of it. And then see if you can lower down onto your belly by keeping your elbows tucked in. Lower down really slowly. You'll feel it in the arms, especially being a runner, but you're probably quite buff as well, mate, so you'll be all right. From here, press the tops of the feet into your floor. And then take it, keep the elbows tucked in and just raise your chest up just a little bit. Don't have to come up far. You'll feel this in your lower spine. This is cobra pose. Nice.
I feel it everywhere.
Bring your head down.
Yeah.
And then really engage through the hands. Keep the elbows tucked in. And then see if you can lift the hips and come into downward facing dog. So now you're in downward facing dog where you were a little bit earlier. And then again, same thing we did in the standing forward fold. Really bend your knees. Your heels ain't going to get down on the floor. My heels will never be on the floor. We're both runners. We'll both be really tight. So bend the knees and then maybe kind of straighten one leg, bend the other knee, kind of make it a really big movement. You can kind of move. That's it. Nice. Perfect. And then keep your head nice and still. You're really good where you are. See if you can relax the area in between your shoulders. And you're thinking about lengthening your spine more than anything here. How does it feel?
Yeah.
Good. All right. From here, big bend in the knees. Look between your hands. And you're going to step to the top of your mat. So maybe step first your right foot up and then your left foot up. 2 stages. That's it, mate. Now we arrive at the back. Now we're going to just come out of this. So inhale back to a flat back. So come here, lengthen your spine. So the hands are on your thighs and the weight is rocking forward. As you exhale, fold in deep again. All right. And then this is the best bit. Press into your feet. Inhale, sweep the arms up, come all the way up to stand. And then as you exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Nice. So that's called sun salutation A. All right. We're going to do one more and we're going to do it with the breath. And then we'll sit down again. All right. So bring your hands to heart center. Try and move with the breath. So every movement's got a breath attached to it. And now cue you on all these. It's going to be a little bit quicker. Inhale up, sweep the arms up into the air. As you exhale, fold in deep, come into that standing forward fold. Perfect, nice, mate. Then take an inhale, lengthen your spine. So draw your hands right up onto your mat. As you exhale, your hands are down, step back into plank. One foot, then the other. Do it really gently and slowly. Nice. Really in plank position. When you arrive in plank, you take an inhale just to lengthen your plank. So everything's nice and neutral. Nice. As you exhale, lower to the floor. Either drop your knees or lower down in one piece. Come all the way down. Your next inhale brings you into cobra. Tops of the feet into the floor. Keep the elbows tucked in. Come up and then just lift the head. Then your next exhale is downward facing dog. Lift the hips. Come into your downward facing dog. Nice, mate. We're yogi now. All right, take 2 breaths. So nice deep inhale. And then a full exhale. One more like that. Deep inhale. And then a full exhale. Bend the knees into the hips, up between the hands. And then a few steps to the top of your mat. Doesn't have to be 2. It can be 4 or 6. That's it, mate. Inhale to come up halfway. Your next exhale will be fold in deep. And then the final move. Press into your feet. Inhale, come all the way up to stand. And you exhale, hands to heart center. Beautiful. Nice. And then come back to that little hand position. So left hand on the heart, right hand on the stomach. And notice how your body feels. Maybe you feel a little bit of energy in the body. Maybe you thought, that was hard.
Yummy, yummy, yummy. I got love in my tummy.
Anyway, it's beautiful. Nice work. All right, let's do one more thing standing, then we'll sit down. Right. The only thing you need to worry about here is your back. So just be gentle. So feet are about hip width apart, a little bit wider than you were when you were stood. And then a nice generous bend in the knees. So this is called paint the aura. All right. This is all about releasing and letting go. You know, when you have to go out and you want to have a good shout or you want to shout at the dog, you can do this instead, mate. All right. So this one, I'll show you what you do. You inhale up, you exhale down, and you exhale through the. That's it. Inhale up, exhale down, and then just get into the rhythm. Nice generous knees. All the breath go. So inhale through the nose, exhale through. I don't know, we do about 10 more, something like that. And when you inhale, think about positivity. When you exhale, let all of the nonsense go, mate. Anything you're holding on to, any stresses, anything that doesn't serve you, just let it go. Inhale up, exhale, let it go. It feels a bit funny, looks a bit silly, but it's so good. Farting's all part of the practice, brother. Do 2 more. And then inhale, bring the arms up. Then as you exhale, bring the hands down. Nice, really slowly. You might feel a little bit dizzy. So just stand for a couple of breaths, maybe just gaze down towards your floor or the top of your mat. And then just be really curious how that feels in the body. For me, I always feel a little tingling in the fingers. I feel kind of a buzz in my body.
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Nice, mate. And then come to sit down again. We're not going to do a lot more than that. Beautiful. And you know that kind of buzz and tingle that you feel in your body? That's kind of like the energy that you create. So we call it prana in yoga. So we think about it as an energetic thing that we create. It's not breath, it's prana. It's kind of the piece here that sits at the heart center. And then for me, I feel it here. I can feel it here. And I give myself like a bit of a natural high. It's just using the breath, right? Using simple movements.
It's like the same as cold water immersion and all stuff like that. You get that tingly, wakey kind of feeling.
Yeah, and we're looking for that in that natural way, aren't we? You know, you were saying earlier on about give up the booze. Ultimately, you know, we're just ingesting the poison, right? Like that's what booze is. It's just poison. Whereas when we're doing that there, that's all natural. There's a yoga teacher that used to say to me, it's the infinite pharmacy within. This part of the body, a lot of the stuff that we need to heal ourselves, and that's not saying that medical science isn't amazing because we can't heal everything, sure, but we can do so much for our mental and physical health by just kind of being conscious of the breath and simple movements like that. They might not have felt simple, they might have felt quite hard, but you know.
It was good. It was really good.
I mean, God bless you, sir.
Well, that's what yoga does.
Absolutely, mate. It moves everything around. We haven't even done any twists. We've done nothing like that. I think we should do probably some more of this in the future if we get an opportunity, and probably do a class together and kind of work on it like that. That'd be good. We've got one more question, mate. This is the last question. 15 years frontline emergency blue light worker, seen lots of trauma. Apart from professional help, which is in place, any suggestions for how to find some peace? Wow, that's such a big question, isn't it? Suggestions how to find peace. So how would you find your peace, mate?
Oh, God. I mean, I couldn't imagine what kind of trauma, the trauma they must see on a daily basis is something I most probably never seen in my life. Well, I would never see in my life. So I don't think I'm qualified enough to be able to answer that question because that's pretty intense, isn't it?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine what that's like for a job and kind of like the daily traumas that you see. And not just that, I'm sure the amount that you have to work as well.
To what everyone who does that kind of job.
Absolutely. I would say just to, you know, it might sound a little bit glib, but just to try and find time for yourself and to look after and nourish yourself as much as you can. But it's hard, right? If you're going to work all the time and you're seeing that sort of stuff, yeah, I would say keep talking as well, because talking therapy for me, that's the thing that really opened stuff up for me. That's the thing that really changed me as a person. And not that, you know, I've self-actualized. I'm always working on it. I'm always working on my mental health. I'm working on my physical health. You never quite get there, right? But that's the thing that really opened the door to me to see I behave in this way probably because of these things that happen to me or these things that I do, you know, and that really shifted things for me.
But all this work is like people think it'll do miracles. You've got to remember that every day you need to do that work again.
Yeah,
that work needs to be repeated every single day.
Yeah,
when you do a little bit, that doesn't mean it lasts forever. So because when I go for a run in the morning or whatever it may be, that lasts for a certain amount of time. Then it needs to be renewed again. So you must keep. Consistency is key, and you just got to keep on top of that. And as soon as you lose the consistency, you start slipping into bad habits. But then that person's question, I'd highly suggest getting yourself a therapist and work with somebody like that who can help you, I'd say.
Yeah, and find a nice consistent practice. That Sanskrit word I talked at the start, abhyasa, regular, steady practice. It doesn't have to be yoga. It can be anything, can't it? It could be the stuff that we've talked about today. And one thing, just to finish it off, probably is like my advice would be, number one, be curious about stuff. I would say that get into nature. I think it's a massive thing, even if it's just going for a walk, right? Just go for a walk. If you live in a city centre, try and find some trees. Breathe consciously. You're doing that when you're running or you're doing yoga. spend time with people that uplift you. And I think that's one part of it, that we think about our healing journey, that we think we can do it on our own, and it's impossible to do it on your own. You can't think yourself out of your problems. You've got to find a community around you. So that would be my advice.
Get rid of poisonous people.
Yes, absolutely.
You'd be surprised how many poisonous people surround you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So get rid of poisonous people. I mean, it's pretty sweet of me saying this, but because I'm on social media all the time, but try and cut that down quite a bit as well, because that can be very toxic.
Yeah, it's a big one, isn't it? It is.
But just being outside, man, outside away from these four walls is a far happier place than being stuck indoors.
And that's our true nature, right? Being connected and to be outside. There's a reason that we feel that way, is because that's what we've evolved from. And I know that, again, that might sound a bit hippie, but that's where our connection is. And it ain't on screens, is it? Even though we're on screens now, and it's not social media, and it's all of these artificial things that have been forced onto us. That's probably not where we get our nourishment. Our nourishment is by this, talking, by moving, by spending time with people that really uplift us. And I think that would be my gospel today, brother. That was what
I mean, yes, something a lot of people most probably thought, they'd never hear come out of my gob, but take your shoes off and go grounding on the earth and go give a tree a hug, because that is pretty much where you're going to charge your body up. And I know some people can laugh, but that is after doing some research and stuff and being on this journey, that's the kind of stuff that works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. I love to hug a tree, mate. I love to hug a tree.
You never thought I'd ever say I'd hug a tree. But yeah.
Matt, thank you so much for your time today, mate. It's been a real
Thanks for everyone that joined in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. And remember, you can watch this on Catch Up. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It'll be there. Share it, because I think we've had a decent conversation and covered a lot. I'd love to do something else in the future with you, mate. So hopefully the virtual all will be able to kind of set that up, and we can look at something like yoga in more specifics, or we can talk about, whether it be drinking, or we'll talk about anything else, mate. Anything mental health, I'd love to, mate, or health orientated. But cool. Yeah, mate, it's been a real honor to talk to you.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, Matt. Look after yourself.
Cheers, Matt. Toodle pip.